Hello and welcome to another episode of Set Musings. So a bit of a special episode here outside of the usual run, as we've got Innistrad Crimson VOW about to be available. I thought it would be a good time, seeing as also the set's been fully spoiled, if you like, on Scryfall, so that allows me to do this. But yeah, I thought it'd be useful with the release coming up in about, under 2 weeks' time. And obviously, whatever form the pre-release takes, that's going to be, or the paper pre-release, that's going to be upon us in less than a week from when this video is released. And obviously there'll be stuff going out digitally a lot sooner that you'll be able to play. So I'm hoping that this video gives you a broad overview of the set. Again, with the set musings, I'm not necessarily doing analysis of individual cards or what to pick or what not to pick, but really giving you slices through the set so you can get an overall feel for the themes, the mechanics, where the set's sort of positioned in terms of various abilities and how it fits in maybe with the other sets surrounding it. So let's dive in. You can see, as usual, everything's all sort of queued up with the various slices ready to go. So first of all, we're just going to look at initially the regular, what's in the regular boosters, and obviously as we go through you'll see all the sort of special cards, if you like, that are mixed in depending on what type of pack you open. And I'm not going to go into the individual ins and outs of the various booster packs that are now available, because that would add to the length of the video. But what I will do is I'll include links to the set on Mtg Wiki, and then that way, if you're interested, you can sort of look through and see all the different forms that the product and marketing are going to take on here. So things to look out for. Vampires, obviously a big thing. Blood tokens, Cleave, Daybound and Nightbound, which we've seen before in the previous set. Disturb, Exploit, Transform, Training. I'm also going to include a link to the customary Magic the Gathering article on the main website, so you can get a feel for the mechanics as well. Some useful information in here on how the mechanics work. And beyond me just reading out the mechanic as it appears on the card, again, I'm not going to necessarily deep dive into the ins and outs of Training or Cleave or anything like that, because it's fairly easy to read here, and it lends itself better that way than me trying to explain it. And of course, again, Wizards have already done videos for all of that stuff, so it would just be reinventing the wheel. So what you'll notice here, we've got 282 so-called in-booster cards. If you look on the Mtg Wiki article, they might mention a figure of 277 plus 130 extra cards. I think the reason why, I know why it's 282 here, is because this particular one is including both those fancy new, let me come down to where the land is. Yeah, here you go. So these are what features as the land now in this particular set. So you can see there's a couple of pieces of artwork in here, but also they have created what I call regular artwork. Now, as far as I know, these aren't going to be in the boosters, but they will be featured in something. And I'd seen them in introductory boosters, or what people might call promo boosters. So yeah, anyway, just keep an eye out for if you buy a different Magic product, where these turn up, this particular artwork, but in the regular boosters it should be this style here. I mean, one thing we are used to, and if you watch my set musings, if you've been watching my set musings series, we're starting off, quite far back in Magic's history. And one thing I always bring up is, consistency of artwork. And there was a sort of golden era, you could suggest, in Magic sets where the artwork got super consistent. So now what you tend to find is the style itself is consistent, and the level and the quality of the artwork, but there's a little bit more variability in some of the across the different artists. So the style is the wrong word, but the overall form is very similar, but within that there are some various styles, but obviously it's not as erratic as it was in the really early days of Magic. And one thing I don't do, but is interesting to do if you can, is take slices through a set in terms of a particular artist. That's another way of slicing through Magic from an aesthetic point of view. But those are the regular in-booster cards. So starting off first of all with different card styles. So these are the Borderless Planeswalkers. There should be 4 in here. I'm just going to refresh this. Yep. Sorin the Mirthless, Chandra Dressed to Kill, KO Geist Hunter, and then we've got these Dracula cards as well, which we'll no doubt talk about at some point in a bit more detail. You can see the actual name, so it's still a Sorin the Mirthless, but you can see its identical abilities here, and you'll see that in the new styles. If you're not used to doing that, it's the first time you've seen the different style of cards, which I'm assuming anybody watching this video has already experienced this. But within any set now, you've got multiple different types of artwork for single cards, and of course, like I said, depending on which product you buy, you're going to see more of that versus the sort of regular so-called in-booster artwork. And we've got the alternate art Borderless cards. There's 5 of those, and they're actually the 5. I think it's called, is it Hauntlands or Huntlands? I think is the term they use for that. Yeah, the Huntlands. And you can see those enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more lands. So what's interesting with these is it doesn't care, this check doesn't care about the identity of the land, whether it's a so the green blue one, it doesn't check to see is it a forest or is it an island. It's just any land. So we've got these so-called showcase cards. You notice with showcase cards, although it's not as elaborate as say the full artwork, you can see they've done something. So what they're doing with showcase cards is in each set there's a number of these showcase cards, and they have a border that is specific to that set, but also there may be 2 types. There may be more of a different border, and then these ones that are stylized in a particular type of delivery of the art itself. So you can see here this is very similar to that style they have with the land, with the basic land. And again, I'm in the Mtg Wiki article, it's going to have a bit of a better explanation in various links as to what exactly is meant by a showcase card and what that entails in there. Like I said, you can see down here, showcase cards first appeared in Throne of Eldraine, I believe. That's when that happened. And then since there, they've messed around with the card frames and aesthetics of the cards and made them specific for a set or around a theme. So it's just a catch-all term that covers a variety of different treatments that change on the set, and they all play to the set's theme in some way. That's my understanding of how that works. And again, the cards themselves are available in the regular form. It's not as if there are additional cards that aren't available in the in-booster versions. So then we get on to the Dracula series, which we've seen one of already. So that's what they've done here. You can see underneath the main title, they've actually got the name of the card that this is representing. But what they've tried to do is map that back through the substitute name to the story of Dracula. And so all of those cards have had the artwork obviously ordered accordingly. You can see this is like a full artwork form where it spreads all over to outside where the border would be. So we've got references to Van Helsing and Mina Harker and Jonathan Harker and Count Dracula. Here are the other extended artwork cards that don't necessarily follow that filtering through the Dracula theme. But with these, let me just show you, you can see if I bear with me a moment. There we go. So what's interesting with these is this all extends inside of the actual rules text. Whereas these, the rules box does have its own background there. So they've got extended art. So in that respect, they're not really full art, whereas this is more of a full art representation of that. We've got the buy a box promo, which is Castle Dracula. And we've got 4 general promo cards for various things. That's all the different treatments out of the way. And if you've not used Scryfall, it's pretty easy to do that in a set. If I go up to the top, so this is a full search of Crimson Vow. And you can do like a jump to here. So you've got in boosters, Borderless Planeswalkers, alternate art, Borderless cards, which we saw a moment ago. So it's easy to get to those different parts, extended artwork cards and so on. Now, the other thing I was going to mention in Scryfall is this, when you do this, if you go into sets, you get this nice list here. So already you're seeing, we've got, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but we've also got the Crimson Vow Commander. There's 2 Crimson Vow Commander decks that are in the process of being spoiled. And so you can see here there's that's in there as well, and the Commander Collection Black, and also they're starting to spoil the double feature cards as well. So if you're trying to keep on top of stuff, then this is obviously a good place to come. The other thing is you can go for full images in here as well, which is really useful. So that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely well worth playing around with Scryfall if it's something you're not familiar with already. So seeing as creatures are so important, there's 165 creature cards in the set, and you can see that there's various combinations of subtypes here, as well as like an individual type. So we've got in spirits and spirits warlocks and angel soldiers and spirit soldiers and human soldiers and birds, and all manner, all things in between. But of course there's a number of specific tribal cards for specific creature types. So what I've done here is I've done a filter in Scryfall on spirits. You can see, so we've got 24 cards that somewhere have spirit in the creature type, although some of these are hybrids in that they're not just a spirit, they're something else. They're a spirit warrior. Now I don't think we'll see. I don't think they combine necessarily the two, any actual of the tribes together. So you wouldn't obviously get spirit human as far as I know. So let's go through this. We've got spirit, we've got zombies. You can see here, if you look down, so we've got spirits in white and blue, and there is a green spirit here, a wolf spirit. Then in terms of zombies, they're in blue and black, and there's a combination one there, two coloured one there. And you can see again, some of these are straight zombies, some of these are combined with other creature types. And then moving on to vampires, they're in white, black, red. Oh, there's a blue-black one there. But no mono blue vampires in this set. I'm just going to refresh, because when we're this close to the spoil, sometimes there might be some stuff added that I missed, but I think I'm pretty as up to date as I can be. So yeah, you can see here again. So vampires are a thing. What else is a thing? Werewolves. And they're in red and green. And then we have another. We'll come on to some of these creatures that are appearing down here. There's a number of sort of what I call archetype indicator cards as well that are worth looking at individually. Looking at the cycle as a whole. So it's easier to see these across the cycle, individually across the cycle. So. And here's humans. White, blue, black, red and green. And then various colour combinations, which we'll come on to later. And no surprise to see combinations like human soldier, human knight really standing out. And we'll come on to what all of these are in a moment as well. So what I did is I did a search. So actually, let me just skip back first of all. So spirits, 24 spirits. Zombies, 21 zombies. 30 vampire cards. 14 werewolves. And here, these are the humans. 53 of those. So yeah, humans is definitely the biggest tribe represented in the set. But also I did a search, which is what is there anything that isn't a spirit, a zombie, a vampire, a werewolf, or a human, but is obviously still a creature? And this is what I ended up with. So 38 cards. So we've got things like angel soldiers, birds, serpent egg, bird horror, crab horror, kraken horror, bird horror, drake, bats, wolves, demons, skeletons, slug horrors, devils, wolves, dragons, elementals, the usual sort of suspects here. Obviously, in the different colours, there tends to be predominantly some other of the tribes outside the main ones in there. So green, we're seeing quite a few wolves down here. And then we've got also 2 colour stuff. Spiders and some artifact creatures as well, which here look like they're all constructs, but we'll come back to that again. We've got coloured artifacts in the set as well, so that mixes things up generally with artifacts. So Cleave. So what's Cleave? So if you look here, you can see that Cleave is messing with the casting cost. So we'll use Fierce Retribution as an example. So 1 and a white to cast regularly, and you get to destroy target attacking creature. If you cast it for its Cleave cost, which is 5 and a white, so big difference here, you may cast this spell for its Cleave cost. If you do, remove the words in the square brackets, so it just says destroy target creature. So that's an interesting thing to do in white, because normally when you're destroying creatures in white, a lot of the time it's either attacking or defending creatures, or blocking or blocking creatures, or someone gets something extra, like the opponent might get, I don't know, the creature's destroyed and they search out a basic land, that sort of thing, or maybe they get life. There's life going to something, but this is interesting in white to see this. So for 4 extra of any mana, you get to completely destroy a target creature. And you can see all of these Cleave cards, not surprisingly, have this square bracket area in them, and it's across all cards. Obviously you can see it's slightly more in blue here than any other colour. And some of these just have a Cleave cost in the same colour as the casting cost. Other ones don't. You can see down here Alchemist Gambit, which is 1 and 2 red to cast. If you want to cast the Cleave cost, it's 4, 2 blue and a red. But again, you may cast this spell for its Cleave cost. If you do, remove the words in the square brackets. So we've got quite a bit here. It says take an extra turn after this one. During that turn, damage can't be prevented. At the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose the game. If you pay the Cleave cost, this goes away. So it then just reads take an extra turn after this one. During that turn, damage can't be prevented. And then down the bottom, it's got Exile Alchemist Gambit. So obviously that's to prevent this from ending up in the graveyard and you being able to do various graveyard shenanigans with that. Here's an interesting a green spell here. So we've got single green to cast. If you do that, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. If you play the Cleave cost of 1, 2 black and a green, so change in the identity if you like, colour identity. I say change in the colour identity, that's not right, but you know what I mean. It's what's interesting is when you really start to analyse this, these colour combinations, are they now in fact changing the spell to be more like that, a spell you would expect under that colour identity? So now it becomes search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. which is an interesting thing to do because there's a lot of black tutors that are associated with finding a card and then putting it into your hand. So interesting to see how that's done. It's interesting why that would be green-blue. Draw a card for each creature you control. I suppose in some ways because you're, I can see the logic here, because you're using green to cast it, green doesn't, well, there's not many flying green creatures. You have reach. So yeah, lots of little touches here. See, this is interesting. So 1 and a white instant where if you pay that you get to deal X damage to a target creature or planeswalker and then you gain X life. X is the number of creatures you control. But then with the cleave cost it's X red white. So now the X is dependent on the amount of mana invested, and this has gone away, so it's no longer dependent on the number of creatures you control. So yeah, it's a pretty ingenious ability, this actually, if you start to really dig deep. So 12 cards. So 31 cards reference blood tokens. And a blood token is an artifact with 1 tap, discard a card, sacrifice this artifact to draw a card. That's what a blood token does. So you can see these all would generate or interact or care about blood tokens in some way. And what's that? Is that? So we've got single white one, it's a black one. Because it's going to be associated with vampires, we're going to see quite a few in black and in red. Some relate to artifacts and artifact equipment. There's even a land that references it. There's a few more cards here that I'm going to go through in a moment. So transform. You can see again we've got 23 cards that have some reference to transform in their rules text. And by the indicator of this in Scryfall, you can see that these are double-sided, and I'll go on to the flip side of these cards in a moment. You can see various ones. We've got condition here. So we've got when you attack with exactly 2 cards, transform Alluring Suitor. And this is a thing we've seen before in earlier sets that have, double-sided cards, going back quite a way in Magic's history, where the transform is triggered by something. So this one, you've got to invest mana to transform it. Others might be a conditional transformation. So at the beginning of your end step, if you discarded a card this turn, you get to transform it. When another creature you control dies, transform Desperate Farmer. And these are all what's on the flip side. And you can see, again, any cards that are, double or two-faced, double-sided, however you want to refer to that, they're going to have this, in this set, they're going to have this sort of day-night symbol, because that's important with the whole day-bound, night-bound thing as well. So those will be impacted on whether it's day or night. And all of that is explained in the video from Wizards that I will include a link to. So things we're talking about daybound and nightbound, let's move on to this. So we've got 14 daybound cards, which also equates to 14 nightbound, because these are just flip the card, and that's on the other side. So, and the good thing with this as well is you'll see here it says reminder text about what Daybound, how this relates to Daybound. So if a player casts no spells during their turn, it becomes night next turn. So day follows night, night follows day. So we look at the Nightbound side. Again, it's just, you know, simply the flip side of the card. Nightbound, if a player casts at least 2 spells during their turn, it becomes day next turn. And just to look at that, do these change colours at all? Nope. So, no changing colours. We've got Disturb again. Disturbed features on 2 face cards. So white, blue, only on this side. So with Disturb, and again look, there's the Daybound symbol. So Disturb 4 and a white, you may cast this card from your graveyard, transform for its Disturb cost. So once this is in the graveyard, you then get to use this. And if you do that, whoops, click the right thing there. There we go. So it goes over to this. And these are all on the flip sides. So if you cast it regularly, you get Brian Kuma. If Brian Kuma ends up in your graveyard and you're able to cast the card for its Disturb cost from the graveyard, then it's Brian-bound Gift. But again, you need to be aware as the game progresses of, you know, the Daybound and the Nightbound cards, because they're going to have an impact as day moves to night and night moves to day during the game. We've got Training in white and green. So with Training, whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And it looks like that's the same. So there's consistency in Training across all cards. Exploit is in the set. So this is interesting. You can see when Exploit comes in. So this is an Exploit is an ETB here. So when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. On all of those. And then underneath it, you have the appropriate rules text that gets triggered when this happens, because this is a may. So you don't have to sack a creature when this comes into play, but you could. So if it does exploit a creature, target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Okay, so this one, when Overcharged Amalgam exploits a creature, counter target spell, activated ability or triggered ability, and so on. And there may of course be extra abilities on there beyond the one that gets triggers if you do the exploit. So this one, in addition to the whole exploit stuff, there's also this at the beginning of your upkeep. Graph Reaver deals 1 damage to you. You can see Graph Reaver is a 3/3 for 2. So that's its downside. So moving on to some of the cycles. So we've got these Symmetry cards, these Symmetry creatures. 5 mythic rare creatures, each exiles a card from the graveyard when they enter the battlefield. Then give you a benefit depending on the exiled card. So if we look at Symmetry Protector, when it enters the battlefield, exile a card from the graveyard. When you play a land or cast a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, create a 1/1 white human creature token. And you see there's quite a lot of text on the blue one here. So once each turn you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with a card exiled with Symmetry Illuminator. And you can see here this is not a matrix, so when this enters the battlefield you have to exile a card from a graveyard. There's a modal, the black one's modal actually, which is interesting. But you can see they all tie back to that exiled card in some way. So you've got, you know, what's the card type here. Yeah, that's card type as well. That one relates back to the mana value. Card type on that one, and also card type on that one. So we have a cycle of double-faced mythic rares that do a variety of different things. You can see here this one's interesting. You've got a black card which has a conditional modal on it at the beginning of your combat. On that turn, choose one that hasn't been chosen. And these also all, well, I've already said it actually, double-faced mythic cards, so yep. They're all permanents. Now that's something, so that one charts into enchantment, and you'll see that 2 out of the 3 actually transform into enchantment of some description. Uncommon tribal hate spells. Circle of Confinement, Lunar Reflection, Parasitic Grasp, Rending Flame, Sawblade, Slinger. And you can see there's a variety of different abilities on them. You've got a couple which are cleaves here. But you can see each one of them cares about a different, or hates on a different creature type. So the white one, it's vampires. The blue one, it's wolves or werewolves. The black one is humans. The red one is spirits, yeah. And then the green one is zombies. So here I just have to pick these ones out. There's within the artifacts there's a cycle of uncommon coloured artifacts, which is bride's gown, sorry. It's the first one. Soul Cipher Board, Groom's Finery, Honeymoon Hearse, and Spiked Ripshaw. So that's the cycle within the group of uncommon artifacts. And as I think I mentioned at the start of the video, we've got coloured artifacts in the set, in addition to the regular non-coloured artifacts. Uncommon tribal support spells. So we've seen the uncommon tribal hate spells. These are the support spells. So these support a particular creature type. So the white one's humans, the blue one is spirits, the black one is zombies, the red one is vampires, and the green one is wolves or werewolves. And you can see a couple of these affect the casting cost. This one you get card draw off of it. This one there's some library shenanigans going on. And on this one it's a modal spell. Half of it is attributed. So this one here, target vampire you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. The other mode isn't tribal. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So we've got some common tribal support spells. So there's some support spells at common. The one we looked at before were uncommon. This is at common. So again, a mixed bag here in terms of the type of thing. So we've got enchantment, instant, another enchantment, a creature, and another creature. So the white one cares about spirits, blue one zombies, black one vampires, red one wolves or werewolves, and then the green one is humans. It's interesting, so that is different than uncommon, but still within the particular colours that we've seen already. Those particular tribes tend to be in. We've already looked at cleave spells, but there is a cycle of rare cleave spells which have multicoloured cleave cost to them, and those are all at rare, those ones. So Lantern Flare, Winged Portent, Path of Peril, Alchemist Gambit, and Dig Up. So in terms of non-basic lands in the set, we've got non-basic lands at rare, and within that rarity slice, particular rarity slice, there is a cycle of these. The 6th card isn't part of the cycle, but it is a rare non-basic land. And we have mentioned this before, these are called, the 5 here are referred to as hunt lands. Enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands, but they don't care about the identity of those lands, just the fact they're lands. Voldaren Estate, you may have caught sight of this when we went through cards that were involved with blood tokens. So we've got tap, add colourless, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any colour, spend this mana only to cast a vampire spell. You have to tap it. 5, tap, create a blood token. This ability can cost 1 less to activate for each vampire you control. It's an artifact with 1 tap, discard a card, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. So we've got a cycle of rare legends, and you can see if you look here we've got 10 of them, so they're in each of the colour combinations, or the 2 colour combinations. So there's the white blue one, blue black, black red, red green, green white, white black, blue red, black green, red white and green blue. So both allied and enemy 2 colour combinations. You can see here some of them are two-faced cards, some of them aren't. But the common denominator is that they're all rare 2 colour legends. Oh, there's an Odric. Oh, that's my favourite ability on it as well. So when Odric Blood Curse enters the battlefield, create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and so on. Wow. So reference back to a previous version of Odric that cared about all of these things. So yeah, it's a clever combination with the blood token theme. So we've got Tribal Lord here for vampires. Look, we've got Tribal Frog card. Frog Tribal is a thing. It's always interesting when you get like a cycle of legendaries in a set, or any legendaries in a set, to see which ones might be usable as a lord for a tribe that maybe doesn't have a legendary for that already, and you're having to use something else. This one is creating insect creature tokens. I think we see Edgar again, actually. Okay, so there's probably different ways you can refer to this. I think the term is signpost creatures. I think I've called them all sorts of things over the years. Like draft indicators, artifact indicators. So as you go through these, you'll notice that there's a link between what they do and various limited archetypes for the color combinations for this set. So I'll just rattle off quickly, as far as I know from the Mtg Wiki article, what limited archetypes map back to which color combinations, and then you can see how this might be reflected in this particular indicator card. So first up, white, blue, spirits and auras. So Brian Kuma. Skull Scab, zombies and exploit. Blood Tithe Harvester, vampires and blood. Child of the Pack, werewolves. Sigardian Paladin, humans. You can also see here that beyond that, I don't know how big the counter theme is in here. So I assume that +1/+1 counters may already be a thing in human. So that might be, if we got time at the end, if I feel so minded, I might do a search for just counters in here and just see whether that's actually a better description of that theme. But if I'm going by the article, then it's claiming that the limited archetype is humans. So there's obviously a green-white humans deck. White-black, life gain. Blue-red, Well, it's blue-red. It's going to be spells matter. Looking for non-creature, non-land cards. Ancient Lumberknot. Toughness. It's carrying about. Markov Waltzer. Aggro archetype. No surprise in red white. And green blue. We got self mill producing tokens. So those are all the sort of main cycles. Then we've got some pairs of stuff. This actually search here sort of illustrates all the pairs together as one, because they're thematically they seem to be grouped under some sort of like wedding theme. So we've got Olivia Crimson Bride and Edgar Charmed Groom. That's one pair. Bride's Crown and Groom's Finery, which is another pair. And then a pair of guests, Belligerent Guest and Gluttonous Guest. There's our basic lands with the thematic artwork and the regular artwork. You can see 2 in each colour. And as I normally do, I'm just going to slice this through differently here. So these are our instants. And again, interesting to see, as I pointed out earlier, how Cleave is changing the nature of some of the spells. So we now have a creature destruction with no additional caveat in white, apart from the fact you have to pay extra for that to happen. So it's removed the attacking requirement by paying that extra stuff. See, there's a classic white destruction spell, is where it cares about toughness. It's on a modal spell. We've got instant speed counter spell there. Oh yeah, and that's another blue thing you see, is messing with creatures' base power and toughness. Well, interesting to see it in the going up rather than dropping it. It's card draw on a Cleave spell. Card draw and counter spell. Oh, there's our creature and planeswalker destruction in black. What about instant speed burn in red? Yep, got a few things here. Rending flame, flame blessed bolt. Although additional conditional stuff attached to those. Oh yeah, look, there's our enchantment and flying creature destruction on the same card. There's our pump, a couple of pump spells. That one's additionally got reach. So moving on to sorceries, see what sort of mass removal we might have in here in white. That's an interesting way of doing it. By invitation only, 3/2 white, choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. Sorcery speed artifact and enchantment. Destruction. Library manipulation. Bounce. Okay, we have exiling zombies. 13 is a thing again. Exile the top 13 cards of your library, then search your library for a card. Sorcery speed, black removal looking like. Grisly ritual. That's interesting. So we've got white black creature. So there's white black wrath for 4 white black. Card draw through life loss. Life exchange. So you've got sorcery speed, red, direct damage. Mulch is in the set. We got eternal land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Cool stuff going on here. Here's our enchantments, and you can see there's a number of cards here that are here because there's an enchantment on the flip side. That's why. So some creatures end up as enchantments when they flip. Here's our full complement of artifacts. You can see in addition to the ones we've seen already, which is the coloured artifacts generally, we've got a few extra ones. It's always cool to see in these sort of theme sets or what themed equipment they might have. So we've got ceremonial knife, wedding invitation, investigator's journal, honoured heirloom. Got a vehicle in here, honeymoon hearse. And no set musings would be complete without a look at all the legends. Some of these we've seen already. We've seen these ones. A cycle. Additionally, because we're just doing a search on legendary, we're going to kick up any planeswalkers. So we've got Chandra in here. We've got Sorin the Mirthless. I'm just looking to see. It's not really a balance in terms of mono-coloured legends. Got a couple in white. Thalia makes an appearance. We've got a couple in blue. A couple in black. And the rest are all 2-colour. What's this one do? Generating slime counters. And here's the set in its entirety. Now, this is a good time. I'll excuse the clanking on the keyboard. So I said I'd have a look. I'm just curious to see where counters are sort of sitting. So there's quite a few counters cards that do that. I was just curious to see so there is a counter thing going on in white green clearly. There's a few other ones. We've got omen counters in blue. And the other thing, and of course it's gone now, was another one that came to mind when I was thinking, oh, tokens. Those are the two I tend to. So this is beyond the, obviously we've got, was it blood tokens, but I was curious as if there was something else that, see if we can do this. I think that's going to work. I think that's everything, any token, but it's taken out all the blood ones. Yep, so we got several things here actually generating tokens, which is interesting. Hang on, why did I'm going to redo this Planeswalker search. Actually, I think I made a mistake there, because I've noticed we've got another Planeswalker. Oh, actually, no, sorry, we did see that, thinking about it. Because if we go back to... Oops. Our legendary... Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's my mistake. So... I missed out on that. So there's actually... That's just 3 Planeswalkers in the set. There's also Kaya. So yeah. In fact, I should. This is the problem when you do this super quick. Yeah, so there we go. If I do that, that's always interesting. So that includes all the alternate art. So it looks like Soren's getting the full treatment. So we got this version, the extended artwork version here, and then those sort of thematic ones as well. Whereas the other two, they only have the extended artwork versions. And we have it. So final thing to do, let's have a look through at some sorted stuff. So sorted by cost. So most expensive card currently, and again bear in mind the set hasn't been, the physical set hasn't been released yet. It's not even available, I don't think, online quite yet. I could be wrong. But, this video is going out on the 7th of November. Just for reference. So this is hovering the different versions here of Sorin. 3 versions. The most expensive one is the sort of thematic version. It's $54. Necro Duality. And you can see with all of these, you know, there's seems to be all of them have a couple of versions here. And just the way this works when you're doing the sort through, obviously it's going to come up with the multiple different versions at the different sort of price points. So I'm just looking through. It's probably on this set at the moment. We're going to get quite far before we reach that that $10 threshold that I always use. So this has been reprinted a few times. Oh, we're slowly getting there. But obviously expect there to be price changes once we get into the actual release of the set. So Dreadfast Demon is around about where our threshold is between Symmetry Prowler and Dreadfast Demon. And then at the moment, again, this will change as people get to build decks more around this. Oh, look. Evolving Wilds. We should also take a look. That's one final search. And see what additional land. I went through and did, obviously, the rare lands. One thing I should just check is we'll see what land there is generally across the set, which isn't, just anything that's non-basic. But no surprise that Evolving Wilds, and it's in the set with obviously different artwork here, that's going to be like top of the list in terms of inclusion in EDH decks on EDH Rec. And at the moment, it's most likely we're going to see, reprints at the top here, because obviously they're already popular. I won't do it, but I could probably work out the point at which, again, this can be a little bit confusing. This is actually Thalia. It's just a different artwork treatment. That Dracula theme. There we go. People are obviously already building Toxrill decks. So how many we got in here? Oh, 183 Toxrill decks already, because the card's already in Commander. That's good. I'm always pleased when I see people already, deck building with a really recently released set. So let's just go back a step, and we'll just modify one of these. And then do this. I believe this is the way to do it. What's the matter with me today? I'm doing this one-handed. Yeah, so that was the land I missed out on. So the other non-basic land that isn't a rare is Evolving Wilds. So that's the complete complement of non-basic lands in the set. The 5 cycle of Huntlands, the Vidaran Estate, which does some shenanigans with mana based on vampire presence or casting a vampire, and also generates blood tokens. And then our old friend Evolving Wilds with a different artwork treatment, which is always nice to see. It's nice to see. It's a nice little thing you can sort of collect, the different Evolving Wilds artwork. throughout, from when it was first printed. So as I've said, I'm also going to include a link to this. Hopefully you've enjoyed this set, Musings. Sorry I jumped around a little bit there, but I'm not obviously that familiar with the set at this point. But it's always interesting to try and go in and look at it fairly early, so it will benefit everybody that watches this video, and then they can sort of use that information to dig a little deeper into the set. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now.